In that practice, what was astounding to me and really became glaringly obvious toward the tail end of my career was that the biggest reason why people are not living longer, healthier, happier, more fulfilling lives um, were modifiable risk factors. They were absolutely modifiable risk factors. By modifiable risk factors, I mean things that they could have easily changed in their diet, their lifestyle, their routines, their medications,
Mhm.
their supplementation, the food supply, the drinking water. And there's an overwhelming body of evidence. And if you just look at big data on healthcare spending, I mean, the United States spends $4.5 trillion a year in healthcare. We're the largest spender by a huge margin worldwide. We're the leading spender on healthcare, but we're ranked 32nd in the world on life expectancy, 58th or 59th in healthcare delivery. We have the lowest we have the highest sorry, the lowest life expectancy at birth. We have one of the highest maternal mortality rates. We have one of the highest infant mortality rates. Even though we lead the world in colorectal cancer screening, we lead the world in breast cancer screening. We lead the world in flu vaccinations, and we lead the world in spending. And yet we are so chronically ill. We have more comorbidities, meaning in the United States there are more people. First of all, we also lead in obesity, so we're leading in a lot of areas. So we're
We're
killing it.
number one, bro.
we're killing it.
Go us.
But when you look at comorbidities, which are multiple chronic diseases, so hypertension, morbid obesity, diabetes, thyroid, all of these different what we call comorbidities. We lead the world in comorbidities, right? So we know that spending doesn't equate to outcomes, right? Because if it did, we would have the longest life expectancy, the lowest rates of obesity, the highest rates of healthcare delivery. We would have low infant mortality rates. We'd have low maternal mortality rates, and and yet we don't. And so now I think people are waking up to the fact that they need to become citizen scientists, right? And it's not necessarily anti big pharma or anti modern medicine because I think we would both agree that if we hit a windshield at 20 miles an hour, I want a surgeon. I want painkillers. I mean, I want it all, right? I want to go to good orthopedic. Um, if I get pain in my chest and it starts to radiate down my arm, I'm going to the ER, right? But aside from the crisis intervention, right?
Exactly.
I'm not going to go to the third leading cause of death to prevent death, right? And by the
Yeah.
way, there's modern medical error is the third leading cause of death, and that's not my opinion. That's the opinion of Harvard and Johns Hopkins, and looking at ICD-9 and ICD-10, ICD-11 codes in healthcare, and looking at how many times medical error leads to unnecessary death. So what I'm saying is that that's not where I'm going to go to get my advice on how to live longer.
I love it. I
Right.
totally agree with you. That's why I
Okay.
don't really practice medicine anymore. That's why I
Okay.
left medicine. I
Yeah.
spent I spent 2 decades of my life getting medical degrees and training in medicine, and I don't do it anymore because
Yeah.
of this, because of this, just, because of this loss of my religion in medicine when I was doing it. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. So this is really interesting because Western medicine, with all of those accolades, we're number one in obesity, we're number one in diabetes. Go Western medicine.
Don't
You
forget
know,
infant mortality rates and maternal deaths.
that like, but look at what Western medicine recommends, right? We had this recent food compass come out from Tufts, good old Darius Mozaffarian.
Right.
Fruit Loops and frosted mini wheats are healthier than milk,
Mm.
meat, and eggs. Western medicine, Harvard will recommend canola oil. They'll recommend seed oils.
Mhm.
They'll recommend 10 to 12 servings of whole grains per day, all
Yep.
these kind of things. And you think, okay, why is Western medicine so proud of what it's achieving?
Mhm.
When you really look at the stats, and Western medicine should be demoted to the minor leagues.
Yeah.
It's not even a triple A player. It's definitely not major league
And you
player.
look at the size. I mean, it's a war machine. Diabetes is a $110 billion industry in the U.S.
Wow.
So if you think that there's a meeting going on inside of some big pharma boardroom to put that out of business, going, hey, how do we get this off the balance sheet? It's not happening. Right.
I've told this story before. I have a friend in the health space. He's in the tech health space, and he told me, and I could never reveal all the details, that he used to work at a big hospital, and he was in one of these meetings where at this big hospital they were saying, we don't want to actually fix diabetes because that'll affect our bottom line.
Really?
Yes, yes.
Well, it's yesterday. Was I in Orlando yesterday? Yes, I was in Orlando yesterday. I did an Access Hollywood uh, event in Orlando, and so I came to the back of the theme park and they walked me through Universal to get to the center of the theme park. And on my way there, I must have passed 20 dozen morbidly obese families. And some of them I would see grandmother. And if you don't believe me, go to Universal Studios, dude. It's hard not to say something. I wanted to be like, excuse me. But grandma's in a wheelchair, a little motorized. They give you the motorized
Right,
one
right, right.
and with a 2 liter of soda. And then, mom's, waddling behind grandma. And then there's a kid, I estimated he was probably 13 years old. The whole family had fanny packs on. And I was like, I asked the security guy that was walking me through the park. I was like, what's with all the fanny packs in here? Is it like a Disney thing? He goes, no, they can't put their hands in their pockets. I was like,
Wow.
whoa, it actually made sense. I'm like, dude, the kid's 13 years old and neither he or his mom can put their hands in their pockets. And then about 50 feet later, I run into this kid with his parents and he's sitting on a bench. And he has a 64-ounce Big Gulp in his hand. And he had a funnel cake it was on a paper plate and you could see the oil coming through it.
Seed oils, not salad.
Seed oil.
This ain't a funnel cake made with butter.
And I told him on the way there, I'm like, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how families can navigate the theme park. And we did. And I ended up, I get goosebumps saying it because I was like, this is the problem. I said, 64-ounce Big Gulp's got 38, 39 teaspoons of sugar in it. Then you got a funnel cake, which is basically, highly processed, bleached, fortified or enriched white flour, deep fried in very likely peanut oil or Wesson oil or canola oil, and then put on a plate with 10x sugar. And so that's got 44 grams of sugar. They're getting 38 teaspoons, 39 teaspoons of sugar in a 64-ounce Big Gulp, which is 4 or 5 full cans of soda. Nobody thought anything was wrong with that. And kids just sucking away on the soda and mashing down that. And I felt so bad for him because he was already morbidly obese. I'd estimate this kid was probably 13 years old. And so, I think the masses need this information. And there's guys like you and I out there, and there's all kinds of great guys out in the industry, Huberman and Peter Attia, and like all these great mentors that are espousing great information. But we have to somehow figure out a way to get the message to the masses. And maybe not focus on being such woke biohackers talking to other woke biohackers. Because by the time you're considering photobiomodulation and sunlight and breath work and NMN, you're already pretty woke to what a mitochondria is. But I realized the paucity of just basic information that is out there for the masses. And it really hit me like a ton of bricks walking through Universal. I'm like, this is where the problem starts. If we don't fix the food, we'll never fix the pandemic of disease.
I wonder where it all starts, because I think that if you ask that 13-year-old that's obese, is this healthy food? Do you think this is good for you? Or you ask the parents, they probably get offended.
Yeah.
But do you think that they
They
think
don't let me
that's-
have soda that often.
Yeah, do you think that they think this, maybe that's a treat because they're at Universal Studios?
Mhm.
But when I think about that food, I think about calories, I think about macronutrients, and I think about essentially zero micronutrients and zero food information. This is so
Yeah.
interesting to me that because there's a lot of discordance that I see in the literature between a funnel cake, the granulated sugar on top of a funnel cake,
Mhm.
and what happens when you eat fruit or honey.
Mhm.
And there's so much more information in whole foods,
Right.
polyphenols or other compounds in the fruit that affect
And
probably-
better satiation responses.
Yes, that affect the way that the sugars are metabolized in the gut. But when we strip all those things away and you have a processed sugar,
Mhm.
you have a processed oil,
Mhm.
you have processed flour,
Mhm.
there's just the information is not complete. You're basically giving the body a program that's not complete. And it's no wonder that we get
It's highly inflammatory. It's carbonated, first of all.
Yeah.
So guess what's going to happen? First of all, the kid's going to fill up. And 45 minutes later, he's going to be hungry again.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And then he's going to want a corn dog.
Which
right?
they've got.
Yeah, they got those.
Also cooked in seed oils.
Also,
That's available for you. This might be part of the design.
Yeah, and so I agree with you. I think it's about the messaging, and I think that with the agricultural revolution in general was, I think, one of the worst things that ever happened to humanity from the standpoint of we didn't start to mass produce foods for nutritional content. We did them for profit. And it's also the way the healthcare industry is designed. When the people that are making medications that are in service to humanity have no fiduciary to the people that are taking those medications, they have a fiduciary to a shareholder who's an investor that's looking for a return. I think that the system is ass backwards, right?
Completely.
Because if I knew that you were making a chemical or a synthetic or pharmaceutical or food that I was going to feed my family, I would want to know that your interest is aligned with mine and my family's interest, but it's not. It's actually the polar opposite. By law, you don't have a fiduciary to me, even though you're making a product that I'm going to consume, a chemical I'm going to put in my body. You have a fiduciary, a legal obligation to which you could be sued for, to your shareholders, to your investors, to generate a return. So I think we're disoriented with how we incentivize um, you know big pharma, how we incentivize the food industry, because we're not in service to humanity. We're in service to and look, I own a for-profit company. I have nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with producing a product or service and making a profit on it. But I think that when your fiduciary lies to someone other than the people that you report to serve, you have this disconnect.
Totally.
And I think that's where a lot of this comes from. I mean, yeah, I have an Amish farm right up the street from me called it's Healthy Food Choices, and it's called My Healthy Food Club. And I got raw dairy and kefir vegetables and A2 cheese and yogurts and grass fed meats, and I got all kinds of stuff from them. They're pasture raised eggs, and they're an Amish family. And week before last, they were raided by the feds,
Oh my
and they,
God.
they sent out a letter and said, "Hey,
What?
we've been shut down. They destroyed all our food, and we're under investigation." And I was like, "Well, did somebody get sick? I mean, did somebody get a salmonella from the milk?" And they said, "No, no one got sick. They're saying that we're not properly licensed. We can't sell raw milk and raw dairy and raw cheese." And so they came in and destroyed it all. And I was like, "Well, damn, now I got to go find another
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 place."
another
But I felt so
underground
good on that
source. Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.